Hey, this is Matt once again. Welcome back to another video as I get a bit of a drink. And thank you, Sean, once again for the request. For anyone that wants to request any type of videos, a review, a topic, a re-review, a commentary, video game let's try, playthrough, what have you. PayPal is usually the best bet, or join my Patreon. Links are going to be in the info box. It's there or over there, wherever the info box is. Because YouTube keeps changing it. But Sean wanted me to look into a film called Continental Divide, which I had never heard of before, but it came out in 1981, and it stars John Belushi. And sadly, not too many years later, he would pass away, but of course, John Belushi of the early days of Saturday Night Live, The Blues Brothers, Animal House. He was in the film Neighbors. This is perhaps his most low-key performance. From what I understand, this is when he was actually clean and sober for a little bit. I think sadly after he did Neighbors, I read up that apparently a lot of people on that set were on cocaine. That sadly got Belushi back into cocaine. But when he was doing this film, he was sober and clean, and I think it worked the best for his performance in this. And that's one of the things I didn't mind watching this film. Just overall, I thought it was okay. It's not a film I would rewatch again or own in my collection. In fact, I don't even know if this has a Blu-ray or anything, but it was sweet. It was cute. Not too bad of a romance between John Belushi and Blair Brown. It's directed by Michael Apted. He did Firstborn with Peter Weller. He did Critical Condition with Richard Pryor, which I enjoy that film. Thunderheart with Val Kilmer. Extreme Measures, which I think is a decently underrated. I actually really like that film. It has Hugh Grant. One of the only times he got to play a serious role in a thriller. Gene Hackman is in the film. Extreme Measures I thought was a bit underrated. So he's a director I've liked quite a bit of his work. The setup of the film is Belushi is a Chicago reporter. He's the guy that busts a lot of stories out there, become very, very popular. People recognize his name. He does a lot of info from quite a few people. And he's breaking this case of the crooked councilmen, or here the aldermen. The councilmen they're crooked about something about land development or something of that nature. I will say that's the part that was the least interesting, what Belushi was looking into. And to be honest, when that comes back in the third act, it really slows the film down quite a bit. As well, we gotta wrap up the story, and it wasn't really that fascinating of a story to begin with, so it's like, okay. But we get to see Belushi, what kind of person he is. Like I said, I kind of like the fact we see him in a more low-key fashion. There's much more, I guess, warm-hearted look at Belushi. And it showed that he could act. He could be crazy like in Animal House, but he could stretch as an actor, like in this film. I wouldn't say it's a hilarious movie, but there's a couple moments that did make me smirk or chuckle a little bit. Early on, of course, the people in the council don't like what Belushi is writing. So there's as well as other people don't like what he's writing. So there's a point where he gets robbed, and it's like the nicest, most friendly robbery you will ever see. Because the two people have him in this alleyway. Like, wait a minute, I know you. Yeah, I recognize you from the paper. Yeah, you do a really good job. And Belushi, yeah. And then, hey, can you give me some info? And then gives the guy his wallet and gives him his watch. And like they're talking very friendly. And the cops are coming. It's like, nah, I won't say anything. Hey, you know what? I feel bad, man. Here's your wallet. Hey, man, what about my watch? Okay, here. Take the watch too. So the crooks were really nice. But when the cops come, oh, they didn't do anything. Oh, yeah, you're the writer. Oh, I wrote bad about you guys, right? Yep, and then So he gets beat up by the cops, not by the crooks. So the crooks were really friendly to him, but the cops are the one that put him in the hospital. I thought that was pretty funny. I thought that was pretty clever, and I'm okay. That got a genuine chuckle out of me. I did like that. But of course, his boss knows that he's in a bit of trouble. He needs to leave the city for a bit. So he's trying to think of this idea. One that leads to another. He's going to go into the middle of nowhere, into the mountains, where there's this lady, played by Blair Brown, who is an eagle researcher, in particular the bald eagle. Now, granted, she didn't really know that he was coming. You would think there'd be some kind of communication, like, hey, be prepared, this guy's on his way. But she didn't really seem to know a whole lot what was going on. But anyway, he gets a guide, goes over there. Some trouble brews until he finally gets there. He's going to be there for 2 weeks. And they have a bit of friction. And you know that friction's going to turn into they respect each other. There's stuff about the other they like. And ultimately, it's a love story. So I would definitely say at times it's a bit slow. At times it's a bit predictable. For the most part of the story, you know where it's going. But it's a low-key, sweet, nice movie. Like I said, it's nice to see Belushi play a different kind of role. Blair Brown, she seemed like a sweetheart. She had a bit of toughness to her, too. Getting more into spoilers, starting now, spoilers. There's a bit where she screws up these 2 hunters by taking their rifles and smashing them and says, you know how many eagles or bald eagles there are? There's only 2,000 left because of assholes like you. And after she breaks all the weapons, she leaves. Belushi looks at her and then looks at the guys and go, yeah. And then walks away. Or before he even gets there, there's a bit where he's with his guide. And at one point he passes out because of the elevation and he smokes a lot of cigarettes. He wakes up and there's 2 bears. And of course it's 1981, so they don't use real bears, not CGI bears. So of course he freaks out and he prays and the guide helps him out. And then he looks at his stuff and says, oh my god, the bear stole all my cigarettes. So there's little bits here and there. Like he's running out of cigarettes and it's like, man, look at me, I'm very hungry. Got 2 cigarettes, I got 10 fingernails. Gotta go make some food. Now, again, it's a movie where it's going to depend on how you feel about the relationship between these two. Again, you know where it's going. They have friction at the beginning. They're going to loosen up and things don't work out. She invites him out to look at the eagles. There's this guy that runs around who is nicknamed Possum, and he kind of witnesses him and her having fun with each other, which of course depresses Belushi a bit. But then he finds out who this guy is. He's like, wait a minute, I recognize you. And it's a guy who used to be a football player for the Washington Redskins. And I recognize the actor. I went, where have I seen this guy before? He's the character. He plays the character Meat in Porky's. I think he's in the sequels, but especially the first one. I'm like, oh, that's where I remember him from. Porky's. Because I do remember the character Meat. Because there's like Pee-wee, there's Meat, and yeah. So, I mean, I think he was also in The Wanderers. He was in The Wanderers as well, with Ken Wall. So, I don't know whatever happened to him. I don't know if he's still with us, or if he retired. I don't know. But he did pop up a couple times in these movies. And I don't know if this film, what it did, the box office. I read somewhere it made 15 million. If that's true, I don't. I would assume the budget would have been smaller than that. I know it got two thumbs up from Siskel and Ebert, so there's a couple other people who did like the movie. And some little trials and tribulations happen. Like I said, this is spoilers. At one point, they're on the mountain. Belushi and Blair Brown. He falls and hurts his back for a bit, so she's got to help him back to the mountain, back to the cabin. There's a bit where a cougar enters and Belushi kind of freaks out. It cuts away when she finds him. He's been mauled up. I do like his reaction. He just goes, "So, how was your day?" Just very like easygoing, nonchalant. And again, as I'm watching this, I'm sitting there going, okay, there's a couple moments that made me smirk. I don't mind the two lead actors. The romance seems sweet enough. I mean, treat enough where again, you know where it's going, but you're interested to see the journey and how they get there. But like I said, is it a hilarious film? Is it a very memorable film? I don't think so. I can't remember any of the musical score. There's a point where they have sex, and then boom, it cuts to Belushi's right back in the city. I thought that was pretty abrupt. That we went from him being hurt, she's taking care of him, and then they have sex, and then boom, he's back at the city. Again, I feel like there'd be a lot of information missing there, where oh, the guy did come back, and he maybe some glances or some words or some bits of dialogue in between, and but no, that's not really the case. And not only is he back, but I guess he's been back for a while because his boss and others notice how much of a zombie he's been, and they wish he would snap out of it. And they don't really care for the stories he's writing nowadays, and they wish he would get back to being the reporter he was at the beginning of the film. And like, it would have been nice to see, like I said, a bit more of a flow in that transition from the cabin back to the city. Would have been nice to see a bit of Blair's point of view. Like, does she seem like a zombie too? Or is she just nonchalant and is all Belushi feeling this way? Like, does Blair miss him just like he misses her? Does Blair feel the same way? Does Blair think the same way? So it would have been nice to see her point of view as well. Like, the things she enjoyed, she doesn't enjoy as much because he's not there. Maybe did she somehow, I don't know, well, in 81, I don't know how you, somehow maybe someone got her a newspaper in Chicago so she could read his articles, like mementos, like something to show her side of things. But they don't really do that. So it makes it seem more like it's a one-sided affair. Maybe that's its intention. And at the end, it's him getting back onto this case with the aldermen, the crooked councilmen. And like I said, that whole part was just really plodding, slow, uneventful, talks to someone. At one point, he's outside and his apartment gets blown up. But it's all done kind of like a montage. And then things take care of themselves. There's no suspense, there's no action, there's no thrills. Even in a film like Three Men and a Baby, would you say, did the film need that subplot? Maybe not, but at least there was it led up to something. Where there's this cat and mouse chase, and they have this wire to try to let the cops know, and they get in that elevator, and one of them's down there, Ted Danson screwing up the elevator while Steve Gutenberg and Tom Selleck are trapped. And then the bad guys are in another elevator. Like, at least it's amounting to something. Here, didn't really amount to anything. It's like, well, we set up at the beginning, so we gotta pay. We gotta. It didn't really feel much of a payoff. It's like, well, we gotta do something with it. I guess to show that he's back in business, and then also in the paper, it shows that the lady's coming by to do a seminar. Belushi goes to see her, shows her around the city. I at least appreciate the fact they don't do the whole they have a fight, they break up. So that's one thing I'll say I truly appreciate that, because that is what made it even more predictable, even more cliche. Because that's what happens a lot. There's a fight, there's a breakup, they say bad words to each other, insults, which they shouldn't say, but they do, just the heat of the moment, the heat of the moment. But they don't do that, and that was refreshing. It just, they kind of talk with each other, he shows her the city, gives her a few pointers about calling 911, or not to call 911, because everyone's going to be calling the number. And pretty much, they talk, yeah, there's a bit of a distance between us, and she doesn't want to leave her career. And then Belushi follows her onto this train. He's going to stay for a bit, but he won't let her go. I do like the bit where there's a conductor, because he didn't buy a ticket, so he has to keep paying him a bit of money to stay for another hour or so. And then they don't part ways, but then Belushi comes and... But the thing is, it seems to be all from his side that wants this. Like, Blair Brown does... It's not that she's acting she doesn't want it. But why is it that Belushi's the only one fighting for this, is what I'm getting at. It's not the both of them fighting for this to stick, this relationship to stick. It's all him. As in, he's thinking of leaving his career, he's thinking of moving to where she's at, he gets on the train for her, we see him depressed, him acting like a zombie, him missing her, him having pictures of her, him thinking of trying to move on, but it's hard for him to do so. Like, we see how much he wants this. We did not see nearly enough of how much she wants it. And that's the thing, is that we didn't get nearly as much of a dander of her wanting him as much as we did of him wanting her. So I thought that kind of threw things off a little bit for me in the third act. Again, as well as the councilman stuff not being that fascinating. So I would say, like, the third act was the least intriguing bit of the movie for me. But again, the few chuckles I got, the decent photography in terms of the location they shot, the use of actual bald eagles you get to see, and the bears and cooter, all done in camera with the actors in the same frame as these animals, not just they're there and then we see, no, there are times where they're in the same frame. And again, Belushi and Blair Brown, I thought they worked nicely together. I did not mind their chemistry with each other. And that was nice to see. I thought they worked well. It's a low-key movie that is rated PG, and anybody could watch it and not get too offended by anything about it. And like I say, if you want to see John Belushi give a different type of performance, it's definitely worth a look. It'd be one of those, like, if you gave it out of 5 stars, it'd be like a 3 out of 5 star. It's an okay movie, it's a decent movie. Nothing amazing, nothing of a gem, but yeah, this was decent. Have issues here and there. Again, felt a bit plodding at times, but overall, not bad. Not bad. So with that said, thanks for watching. We'll see you guys later. Bye-bye for now.